The question then is, the meeting is officially open, but I didn't officially call it as chair, so I will now. Just take a couple of steps back. The meeting is officially underway for the record, and that would have been what time? It's 6:56 now, so it would have been about 2 minutes ago for the record again. So, is there any questions on the minutes? Comments? Corrections? He's been mods, then we'll need a mover. But minutes, Maggie moves, seconder, Merv, second. To accept the minutes, a vote, show of hands, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstainers? Carried. Okay, reports now, so I'm just going to sit down for this one because I've got it on my laptop. And it's slow. So as an opening comment for myself, in case you didn't know, we don't have any funding whatsoever from the M&S. We're still going through a review of locals and their role within the M&S. So for that reason, we don't have any funding at all. So just so it's clear that we don't receive funds and we don't get paid for what we do, we're strictly volunteering. And even my laptop, my phone, printer, which I don't have, but stuff like that, we have to do it just on a personal. We are not provided with any of that stuff. So it's obvious from that we're not on the Metis Local Big and Rich. But things are changing, which is a positive thing. We will be receiving funding eventually. As a matter of fact, at the last MMA, the CEO announced that he'll be sending us a $1,000 check right away after the MMA. I haven't seen it yet, but that's what he promised us. So we're still looking for that check. So for a couple of years, the COVID put a damper on any activity, and you probably realize that. There was very little as far as activity and no funds other than the COVID money that was being distributed. And that was through the regional office at Texas office, not in Texas, but Texas office. And again, we are now registered as a not-for-profit corporation. Thanks to the lawyers at the village office as well as Wendy helping out with that. Appreciate that very much. We are now a not-for-profit. And I've always been against that as a local president because we're not a fundraising committee, we're supposed to be a government. So that's the reason why I've never supported having to register as a not-for-profit. But I can see it's good to have or being registered to have a corporation, because when we do any proposals and whatnot, we have to be accountable for the funding. Some of the heavy stuff that I want to get into is one of them is very critical, and it impacts every rights-bearing person, regardless if you're registered with the M&S registry or you are just the local indigenous person that has rights, Metis rights. Duty to consult is something that we've been dealing with on an ongoing basis. Almost every month we receive a letter saying, from the Ministry of Environment mostly, but there have been some from SAS Power, and others that come from the Forestry Division, as an example, Mystic Forestry Company, Sagawa Ski, and Denison Mines is another major one that we're dealing with through that duty to consult. And with the SAS First Act that was just recently introduced at the Legislative Assembly in Regina by the government, that's the SAS Party government, I guess it goes against rights-bearing individuals. And they're challenging us as rights-bearing people. We're supposed to have a right to hunt, fish, do any other activity in the bush without being harassed because we have that right. But with the SAS First Act that was recently introduced, what the province is doing is asserting their right to the resources, meaning that they have a right to the bush, all of Saskatchewan, and they're not recognizing the rights of Métis people and First Nations people. So there was a protest that was held in Regina. I was part of that group that attended the Legislative Assembly the night before the committee was meeting, and that was the final reading. So we opposed it. We tried to get in to be accepted as a group that was opposed to be able to participate in the development of that policy, but we weren't allowed to do that, so we were sitting kind of on the outside looking in. There was a community engagement, and some of you may have been in attendance. That was on October 5th, 2022, right here in the BPI Gymnasium. And some of the concerns that I had raised, one of them is the concern over the sale of Crown land. There are a lot of leases out there, and most of you that are involved in any traditional activity, you know this. There's leases out there for wild rice, there's leases out there for trappers' cabins, fishers, but most of all, there's leases out there that are being held by people from outside of the north, and in some cases outside of our country, like people from the United States holding leases. So what's been happening is that those leases were being sold to become title to those folks that held the lease. And again, the ones that did hold leases probably know this, that they were given an opportunity to purchase their property and hold title. So that's been happening a lot. So in essence, what that means is that with the land, Crown land being bought out, we won't have any place to exercise our right. And in southern Saskatchewan, that is painfully obvious. Out of the 12 regions, we are one of the 12 regions, they report the same thing, that they're losing Crown land steady because the province is selling it off. What that means is that once it becomes a private land, we can't exercise our right unless we get permission from that private landowner. That's the sad thing. And a lot of that is happening in the north as well. Yeah.
500 meters, half a mile around, land.
Yeah, so there's really a lot of regulations there, and it just what it does to us, it's shrinking the rights that we have, and we're pushing back. There was a court case recently that was won by MNS, so hopefully that'll be a start, and it'll keep going, and we'll push the province back. Because as far as we're concerned, we're not a provincial responsibility, we are a federal responsibility, and so therefore, any Crown land that had been turned over in the 1930s, we should have been consulted. That duty to consult should have been exercised, but it wasn't happening. The other thing I raised at this community engagement that we had, which by the way, they sent a consultant, and they often do that. They'll send a consultant as opposed to decision makers from the province. Sure, they had a few, I think there was about 3 Indigenous people sitting at the table at the time, but it's just brown faces because they're pushing the same policy that the province is, and they work for the province, right? So that's all they were doing, and I made it clear that that's all they were doing, is just for the show. We had 3 Indigenous people sitting at this table. So some of the things, like the other thing is the harassment of traditional land users. It continues today, and most of you that have been out and about, you've probably been asked, what are you doing here? Like if you're in a commercial forest area. Because the forestry companies hold that permit for harvesting. And so they don't want any money going into those areas. The duty to consult, again, it was just arbitrarily developed by the province. There was no input from us, and we made it clear it wasn't meant for us, that duty to consult policy of 2010. What it was meant for is for the province to be able to, again, assert their right to resources. They just wanted the Indigenous people off the land and out of the way. That's always been the practice. When I received letters from the province, the ministry, I've been consistent in telling them that we do not have the capacity to be able to provide the argument that we are rights holders. They provide us $10,000 in grant monies that we can access. I chose not to apply for that money. They make it easy. They call it a fast track. 10,000, up to 10,000, I should say. They might give you $1,000 to hold a public meeting, but that's it. But I've been opposed to it because any money they give you, they're trying to buy you out, right? That's how I look at it, and that's not a very good thing to happen. There was never informed consent, and that's another thing that's very important. That court case I was on recently, there was no informed consent. People were not informed to provide consent to allow people or the forestry companies and mining companies into the land. In 2003, there was a land use policy that was being created. And I know because we were at meetings, several meetings, people were asked to come to meetings, people were asked to identify certain areas, what land activity did you practice with your family or whoever. And we identified all of those, but what happened was everything was placed on a shelf after that land use policy in the Pine House area was done. They didn't finish the one that we had started for this area. I pointed out that there was no conflict resolution provision within the policy. And what should have happened as well, like the federal government is actually who started the duty to consult. And with the guidelines, which are general, usually guidelines are general, the province was supposed to develop a policy, and that's what they did in 2010. But they forgot about us. They didn't include us. So again, I pointed that out once again, that those rights that we hold, you're not respecting them. So what they were doing is diminishing those rights that we hold as Indigenous people. And right now, the Premier, Mo, has started meeting with our eminent president. It could be a good thing if their heart is in the right place. But the Premier is only one person out of the total cabinet. So the convincing has to happen with every constituent representative, those MLAs that sit as government. Each of them have to agree. And happen? I don't know. To me, it's a long, long climb to get there. But I think with court cases, I think we're slowly winning cases, and that'll help. It'll expedite the identification of the duty to consult, and as rights holders, you'll be recognized by the province. And I've often seen that the province doesn't know how to handle Métis rights because they don't understand what those rights are. It's fairly new, so you can understand, I guess, they have to be educated. And I think that's slowly happening. The one recommendation I made at the time was that there needs to be a working group or a committee to look into the duty to consult policy framework that they were revisiting. They're trying to make adjustments in that 2010 policy to bring it up to date because 2010 is already a long time ago, and that's 13 years. So my suggestion was to have a working group, and it should be made up of Métis rights holders, First Nations rights holders, and then general public. And right now, as I said, the policy is not equitable, it's one-sided, it's for the government. That's all it's doing. And right now, the words that are being used by our MNS president is the interest-based engagement. So interest-based, that's very important, because we do have interest in that land. You can't just give it up. That's very clear, been made clear to the province. Any questions on duty to consult? There's a lot. There's also UNDRIP, United Nations Indigenous Rights are recognized through the international organization. And they're trying to integrate those into that. Into our duty to consult policy. No questions so far? The next thing is the access agreement to the bombing range. That's something, the work continues, but right now the Métis from the Alberta side, First Nations from the Alberta side, the Kennewick Lake First Nations, and who else is there? Dylan maybe has. Yeah, I think Dylan has that as well. Anyway, they have access to the bombing range. We don't. Why is that? From what I read, I did a bit of research. There was an agreement signed by First Nations, Métis and the Alberta side. We were not present at that meeting, so nobody signed on our behalf. So it's open. We should be able to access the bombing range for traditional activity. And there's an opportunity there for sure. But right now, as an example, that fish company out of Isle Cross, they're always running out of fish for their plant, to pack their fish. And because the provincial government does not want to increase the quotas for the lakes, the bottom line is they're trying to save it for anglers, tourism. This would be an opportunity where people that do commercial fish will be able to go to the bombing range. There's 3 large lakes that they can access fish from. And then if they choose to sell it to the Cross Fish Company then for packing, then that opportunity will be there. So we continue to work on that. The Northern Region 2, which is the Buffalo-Lamoche area, and Northern Region 3, which is our area, we're currently dealing with the Northwest Land Claim. That was registered in 1994. And from what I understand, there's going to be a meeting set up pretty quick. Our area director, Tex Boogie, who's in attendance here, he'll probably report on that later. He is a co-chair of the Northwest Land Claim Committee, or not committee, made up of the presidents from our locals from the 2 regions, northern regions on the northwest side. So The intent has always been that we want to do some research, we want to do some surveying of the public, and what that survey will entail is that we'll have a setting similar to this, where you can come to look at maps, and you can identify, if you recall, as an individual, this is where we used to bury it. You'll mark it on a map and say that this is my family that used to bury pig in here. This is where we trapped for muskrats, wolves or whatever. That was our trap line area. You register that as well. That's the kind of survey that we're talking about. And it's so important to document a lot of this stuff. And Pine House has done their work. They said they spent close to $2 million on that documenting. And it was funds that came from the benefits agreements that they had signed with Chemical. So a lot of that funding source was from there. So we're hoping that we'll be able to do the same thing now that we have a template. That template will be used, the one from Pine House, to do the same thing in our communities, in our region. Just so we're not forgotten that these are areas that we used to do the traditional activity. And I always say, without land, we're nobody as a Métis people. We do have Batoche, but that's in central Saskatchewan. But in this area, we should have access to land that we can call our own. And that's why the land claim is so important. I just want to mention that there's work that my wife and I have been doing. It's not something that we announce publicly. It's just when people need help, anything like a housing application, residential school application, income tax. My wife has been very instrumental in that. She's good with numbers, and when she's stuck, she doesn't ask me because I'm not very good with numbers. Otherwise, I'd be a millionaire maybe. We had Christmas gifts that were delivered to our community, but never delivered to the homes. They were sitting in storage, I think in the next building, east of here, the old village office. But I think eventually they were delivered. But as a result of an application that I had sent in, they forgot about us at the office. They said they didn't receive an email, but I had the evidence because it was registered on my laptop, my email. So in order to appease us, because I was pissed off as to why that didn't happen when it was supposed to have happened. So what they said was, okay, we'll make up by sending you Easter baskets. And so they did. I think it was Shirley that delivered the Easter baskets, and as well, she was going to deliver the Christmas gifts. I never did talk to her about that, but I'm pretty sure she did. And so this coming Christmas, hopefully it'll be no different, but this time I want to make damn sure that we have it. The interesting thing is that I didn't have the numbers simply because we won't know who is all registered, right, as Métis citizens. So we're pretty much guessing. Like in that household, there would be about this many kids. The age group was from 0 to 14, so we're kind of guessing when we were going through that. We continue to provide letters of support to the Recreation Board for programming. So when you see programming that's happening through the Recreation Board and when they report grants, a lot of that we send a letter of support to them to be able to access some of the funding. Not all, but some of the funding. They have to have the Indigenous piece on that, so that letter helps them. And as well, with individuals that were dealing with leases, we were helping them out with that. They could write letters. If they were dealing with having to consult with companies, we were helping out with that as well via a letter. And there's other things that we're doing. Like there's consultants within our community that were applying for funding. I haven't heard whether that money came in, but It was to do with mental health work. And so hopefully that will come through, because I think we're very in dire need of good programming for mental health purposes. And it's all age groups that I think suffer as a result of the many things that go on. A couple of major projects that I want to point out that we're working on. One is the enhanced health clinic that we were promised. And there's supposed to be 4 beds within that health clinic as well for palliative care. That's for elders that can't look after themselves. Then they'd be looked after in that palliative care. Those 4 beds that we'll have. Because right now, it's really sad when you have to ship your elders out, and all of a sudden they end up at Spearwood, Big River, or wherever. That is not a good thing. We need to keep our seniors at home. And MNS is working on that as well. Like, they're trying to address it in such a way, the model they're trying to adopt from the last time I made the report was that keep our elders at home, provide the necessary resources to the families. You know, it probably costs a lot of money to ship people out to go stay somewhere outside of their community. Why not pay the family that same dollar that you're spending to ship them out and keeping them elsewhere, so they can look after their parents, their grandparents, kind of thing, right? That's the model that MNS is looking at. So that health clinic, we were promised that health clinic way back when we lost the hospital. We were supposed to get the hospital in Beauval. Everything was kind of smooth sailing until politics came into play. And we lost out on that hospital. So what they told us is that, we'll provide you with an enhanced clinic. And that was years ago. We're still functioning out of that little building that's not even designed for a clinic. It was an office building that was built here back in the 70s, and we're still operating out of there. And the minister, we met once already, but your mayor here has been looking after the communicating with them, and we're supposed to find out when the lease is up for that building. And we're going to try and time it in such a way that we'll have a building built by the time the lease is being renewed, so that that lease will apply to the new building. And I think we can approach it in a business way, like we make it into a business, where we can lease the clinic to Fast Health. And then they pay for the facility and we manage it locally. So that's, I think, would be the thing that we're working on right now. The other building, and perhaps our area director will mention it as well, La Famille, which is my family in French, La Famille. We are prioritized as a community to receive a regional service center to be built here in Beauval. And that center will house offices with a number of itinerant tenants providing service to citizens, Metis citizens in our region. So that'll be Northern Region 3. The logical geographic center is Beauval. It's not far from Patinac, Pine House, Green Lake, Island all these communities, Chance Bay, Cold Bay, South Oregon, and Pino River as locals. They'll be able to use that facility. It'll have a commercial kitchen, similar to what you see here at BDI Gym. And with the intent, you'll have an open space as well, with the intent of hosting activities that are Métis in nature. So they'll have, offices there for health and wellness and mental health, addictions programming, educational programming. So that's what the service center, what the intent is. The other one that sounds exciting to me anyway, I don't know if you feel the same, with construction of a provincial health and wellness facility at Batosh. That was announced at the last MNLA as well, where they're going to be building a facility, beautiful, beautiful design facility. They showed us a picture and where it's going to be located along the river's edge, top of the hill. The perfect location. And that's where people can go kind of away from the centers like Saskatoon, PA. They'll be able to stay out in the wild, I guess, in that sense. And they're going to be bringing in buffalo in that area as well. So there'll be some perhaps mixed farming happening there that will be a part of that as well. So that's very exciting to me. UPIP money, that's the urban programs for Indigenous people. We do have access to that funding, but we have to submit proposals. There's one proposal that we have put together, and we haven't moved forward on it now. We will be able to move forward now because we'll have a bank account. Once that $1,000 check comes in, we'll open a bank account. We'll make it a ceremony. So the UPIP money will start flowing as well. It's for cultural education programming that we submitted that proposal for. There's a number of things that will occur. That'll be, hopefully we're hoping that July, maybe the latest August, will start, and then start offering some programming right up until about February. We have that plan in place right now. Just FYI as well, the Metis Harvesting Committee is being pulled together again. I don't know who's been selected, perhaps text me know, but we're supposed to have a representative from each region to sit on that Metis Harvesting Committee. And what that committee will do is just define Metis harvesting rights and management, so that it can be managed the way we want to manage it as Metis rights holders, and to develop regulations. Those regulations will be kind of our law to say that if you're going to go hunting, don't shoot 3 mooses because you shoot 3 moose. If you only need one, shoot one, and the rest is management. That's the sort of thing that you're looking at and putting down on paper and presenting to the province. I guess that's pretty much it, other than the early learning and child care resources. So, any questions on my report? I know there's been comments on Facebook, people are telling me, you guys never do anything, you don't work. As volunteers, I mean, what did you expect? I guess if we had an office, and if we had staffs, it'd be a different story altogether. Right now, we're struggling. Wendy does her part to do the secretarial piece, and the directors do their part as directors, and I try to do my part as a chair, because it's so critical. You gotta be in the know on all of these items, otherwise you could lose out big time. So if there's no questions, it was it. That's my report. I'll hand it over to the directors. If there's takers, directors. I'm over. Nick moves. Seconder. Ron, all those in favor accept the report as presented? Abstainers? Against? Carried. Oh, okay, I'll hand it over to Tex now, the original update.
Thank you, Joe. We're next we'll be getting a custom from Holocaust, I'm the area director for Métis Nation, I'm also the veteran minister. So, at this minute of the report, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what Joe talked about. But first, I'll just read my report. I kind of talked about it last night, so I always rely on the Great Spirit to help me because I'm kind of on my own all the time a lot because I grew into a different person in the past 16 years. I'm not that text that you guys used to know before. I'm kind of different, so it's something that I needed to challenge, I guess, mostly all my life. So I'll start off with my report. It's been a few tough years with COVID. It was a barrier that we had to work with and to create a support system to assist the people in communities in Region 3. But we managed to put a team of organizations together that assisted each community. COVID is still around, but it's considered a common flu. But people still have to be aware that they could get people really sick. Within this year, after COVID had died down, I had a heart surgery that put me at bed rest for a few months, but still worked with my staff through phone calls or emails to assist people and keep the office open. The region established an office and has a track record of information that has never been implemented in the past. And it's an ongoing process. But in establishing an office, we have funds to operate and assist, but no funds to give out after COVID. But we have programs and projects that come out from the MNS that we have to apply for example, Beauval to assist communities with cultural events, but must go through the locals. And if the locals aren't organized, example, corporation, bank account, or no office, they can create partnerships within their communities with different organizations that are organized as long as they create agreements with the locals for transparency. We are trying hard to assist the locals in getting organized to operate within the standards of applying for funds and working with different organizations. It's not an easy process. We have to apply for funds to assist these locals in governance, and sometimes it's a slow process. But even with COVID, we came a long ways to manage some business. But we'll continue to keep on striving forward to manage more business. But we have to work together and stay positive and work on solutions. I am in the process of getting programs and projects that I lobbied for that are in the process of being implemented. The first one is Recovery Day, my house, a cultural and language learning center that assists our region clients. By working and lobbying for a bigger plan for before and after care that would have to be implemented in our communities. Talks are underway to create a strategic plan, and it takes time to create a plan that will be available for years. But we strive to keep it going because it's needed. It's a slow process without the proper capacity, dollars. Capacity is dollars, not very much dollars available. We just have to do what we have at all times. To assist us, we always have to lobby until we make a difference. The second one is Tiny Homes in Cross. A partnership is established with organizations to assist this project and could fill in the gap for low-income people with a chance to get ahead. And most communities And that's why the Constitution reform right now, we have a Constitution that was put in place, and we have to follow that. That is our guideline right now. But they want to make some changes regarding the Constitution because of where it was, because they have to move on it pretty quick with the government and then work to have that Constitution quite a while back. In the last one, we kind of touched on it a little bit. The third project is a building that we built in Beauval. We lobbied, we talked, and talked with some of the maybe staff, the housing to be built because of the central area of Beauval, because I saw the arena when it burned down. It was a central area for sports and everything. And today I still miss that. I can feel that every time I come here because I was part of that sports facility. And now thinking of this facility to assist the different portfolios that we have at the PMC. There's quite a few portfolios, and those portfolios that the PMC hold a staff member will be in the office to assist the region with information regarding programs and services that will be benefit to the local communities. And then we'll start here the bill with funding. It's a big project. Talks are underway with the local president and mayor and putting a plan together. And it always takes time to put a plan together because you have to talk, but the action is where I try to implement stuff, making sure, and it's not an easy thing for me to be a transparent person where it's a challenge to bring people together, and it's funding that gets in the way of process to move forward. It takes time, but the most important thing is to be organized and to build policies. We strive to move forward, put things in order, and create relationships, proper organizations, and follow protocol and transparency and accountability. We finally established a track record that we can be proud of as people, because in the last 40 years, there wasn't any documents that were recorded. So we have made history in this region right now. We made history. We have history within my office since it started. We have information from every meeting, from every regional meeting. And we're still moving forward to work with the locals to making sure that they get their corporation. But we're going to move away from that after. We're going to be incorporated to the making nation in a different way to the government. But right now, we have to move. We can't wait and wait and wait. We still have to do what we have to do, and we're still applying for funding through incorporation. So, anyway, that's my report there, and it's just I just want to be clear about the different things that are happening. We're just starting off. Before there was nothing. There's something happening. There's a lot of changes happening. And it takes time for these changes. Where we're at for the past 40, 50 years, we weren't moving along because government wasn't giving us any capacity. They give us a little bit of capacity, but it's not enough. So we've got to work with the mining company, we've got to work with the logging companies, we've got to work with organizations, the logging range. Whoever we can get to get some funding within our locals and within the different areas of our community to build that economic development. It's not about training and jobs, it's about creating our community. And it takes a little bit of time to put it together because it wasn't there before. There's bits and pieces that were missing. So we're just putting the pieces together, and it seems to be working out. The main thing is transparency and accountability. That's my model, not nothing else. I've got to be straight with that, make sure that financials are in, reports are in, and that's where everything comes down to, is the financial. When people get funding, and a lot of funding, they have to make sure that it's reported and it's transparent. They have all the financials. We have numbers in my region of everything that happened in the past regarding health, regarding medical, and emergency repairs. So we have all that information recorded. When you look at it, in the past 6 months, there are 600 applicants, about 600 applicants in different region, in different areas. And sometimes people say, we don't do much. But when I was looking at the statistics today, wow, I didn't even know that. But now I know. Because I'm so busy trying to make people understand that we have to have a system, and that system has to be followed. We got to follow protocol, and we got to follow the policies. So, in another go to emergency response system, you know, I kind of felt bad when emergency response was put in place, and it's not, other communities sometimes are not involved. But when we had COVID, we had a good system in place, and we worked together as First Nations, as municipality, as Métis. It worked out. We actually spent 2.2 million within our communities to help people in every community, you know, and we work together as partnerships. And after that, it kind of went back to where it was. And maybe because I kind of got sick for a while, and I was just responding to in a different way because I was sick. But now that I'm back, I have to look at that again because we have to bring that back, and what NAP and other is doing is the right thing. What's the right thing about the command center? We need to build that as a team. You know, I need to, you know, sometimes we do make mistakes about certain things, about certain ways, but for me, you know, I have to believe that was the right thing. And I think I am the first person that ever said that to NAP, and I'm going to say that to Rick now that Rick is here, because I think it's time that we put that in place, because we're going to need it, because I saw what happened now across when emergency. I stood back. I didn't respond like I did before with COVID, where I put everybody in place. So I stood back and watched how I was about it, but only the community. The outside communities, they have to do their own. But we need to come together as one. We need to come together as one to help each other out. We don't need only one community doing this. We need all the communities to come together in certain things to become strong as one. And I believe that it doesn't matter what anybody says, we need to come together in certain areas. So that way we can help each other out and help. We can help each other out and different economic levels within our community. So within the youth health facility is another project that I've been trying to work at for a long time, and not an easy process to get through my superiors to at certain times, you know, because they're so busy, and I need to remind them that the youth are in trouble. You know, they've been in trouble since I started. They're still in trouble. You know, they still need support. You know, they need a facility of their own for issues. You know, we don't know all the issues around this table. We don't know the issues. We know the issues of ourselves. We don't know the issues of what they're going through. You know, we see a lot of suicides. We see a lot of drugs. We see a lot of alcohol. And we try to think that we know the issues. No, we don't. The only issues we know is ourselves. Because I am an example of that issue. I've been in that system for 35 years of my life. And I was lost. And I came back with asking for help. Because I needed help. I needed help seriously. And I had to ask for help. I needed to pray. I needed to go on my hands and knees in order to be here today. That's the only way that I can move forward. So, but moving forward, a lot of things are happening. They're slowly happening. People are getting organized, and things will more information. You know, sometimes there's communication gaps. there's still a lot of work to do. You know, there's, we've been behind 25 years, so we kind of moved a little bit ahead each year, maybe 2 years, 3 years, but, it takes a long time to put something together and make sure that it stays together, And I keep praying that one day that, I'll see what I saw within my parents, them traveling in the lake and giving out food to the better elders, the friendship, the partnership. I saw a lot of that disappear because of drugs, alcohol, and certain things, but it's coming back. I see it around here today. I felt it today. I'm very proud to sit here. To at least tell you the truth, even about myself, even about what I'm doing. Even information, that information, that's happening out, that I'm just learning. And sometimes I wonder, I have staff and my staff have different areas to cover. And it takes a lot of work to put things together. And it's coming together. It's have to be patient. I know if we lost patience within the 40 years of things that happened, but be patient. Things are coming. Because we have the right people in the right places. We just have to put it together in different areas. So with that, I guess I'm very happy to be here and thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Tex. We get the director. One thing I forgot to mention, and this impacts people that bury big under the power lines. SAS Power has been trying to move forward and hiring a contractor to come and spray herbicide under the power lines. We've been stopping them. So far, we've been fortunate that we're able to stop them. We set zero tolerance for any spraying within our area. And the other day, I got a call from the Aboriginal representative from SAS Power. They were negotiating through the telephone, text messages, emails. But what we had told them was that we may be able to compromise, but the compromise is that we want to have control of the amount of herbicide that's being brought in, what is being sprayed. What we suggested is that if you cut down a tree, in order to kill the roots, just spray the top of the tree. Right now they're spraying just everything under the power lines. You don't know where that herbicide ends up. I mean, there's birds, there's microorganisms, there's worms, and moose, deer that go under the power line. They don't stop just because there's power line. So I know that's what my concern was, is that especially the wild rice, we just finally got recognition that it's organic wild rice as being grown in order to stand up. What I told SAS Power is that if you guys damage one of those lakes, you have just ruined our market for that wild rice. Because I'll use the example of the Chinese were to buy the wild rice from us as organic, and if they detect anything within that rice, they're just going to shut down that market for us. So they're aware. Now the other day I got a call again from SAS Power, the Aboriginal liaison officer. What she said was that, okay, we'll let you do the monitoring. Like what I suggested was that we want somebody with clipboards and boots on the ground and auditing exactly how much herbicide is being brought to the northwest and how much we're going to take out. And they agreed to it, but they wanted us to work under Kitsaki. Kitsaki is known for the vegetation management for spraying. And I said, no, that's not going to work. All able to do is that the perception is still there that we're part of Kitsaki. So I said it needs to be independent, and so I think they're going to seriously look at that. If they're going to move forward with it, they definitely have to seriously look at that. Otherwise, we're not going to allow them. If we have to, we'll go block them, shut them down, whatever we need to do to get them out of here. Don't spray. Use your mechanical that is adequate for us. Hire local people that will do some of the mechanical work that needs to happen. But it's interesting, Task Power is a crown corporation, and yet they're pushing herbicides in our area. It's crazy. In southern Saskatchewan, what they do, they treat us different down in the northwest, which is disrespectful on its own. What they do in southern Saskatchewan, when they come across a private land, private owner, they'll ask that private owner for permission, for one thing, and that private owner will tell them that, well, I want to be standing there where you're going to be spraying. They didn't allow us that until now, until we told them that, no, we need to stop that. So the other thing is just to encourage people that whoever you choose as your local, whoever you choose as your executive, work with them instead of, don't talk behind their backs, don't post things on Facebook, let them know. In the 3 years that I've been, although it's been COVID that I've been president, I probably received a handful of calls from people with concerns. I'm sure there's more concerns than just a handful. I don't know whether people are shy and they don't like me, I don't know what it is, but they sure don't talk to me. But they do talk to the other directors, which is good. So the message comes through other sources. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our chair. She'll be chairing the proceedings from here on in. That's for the election piece.
Okay, we're just going to talk about what you're for directors. This dollar things now. On behalf of the directors, I suppose I could say, like I was one of the person that sat on this board since 2020. And with COVID happening, we rarely met, but we tried, most of us board members, and did our part to keep going and establishing what we have so far. I just want to say before nominating members and accepting, I'm not going to accept this time or whatever, this term. That's it for me, but make sure you take the time to know what you are getting into. Just because there's so many things to learn, people want to change and a more active board, I know. A lot of letters come, from the governments, and we have to ensure a person understands and can answer, the government, and to make sure that we stand strong against the government, so they don't start taking all our resources or whatever. Other letters come from Task Power, other agencies like Canada, etc., right? A person needs to understand, and I'm sure a lot of us can learn, but as a person with their background, they need to know the meaning and make sure that we protect our resources. And I just want to say, just be mindful when accepting and voting for members and to make sure that they can provide and be our voice. Thank you.
Okay, before we move on for nominations, I just want to say some of the rules that we need to follow. Only Metis citizens can vote. You have to have your Metis card. It will be done by secret ballot. We have an election box over there. Whoever is elected must provide a clear criminal record check. I need your ID when you register over there. If you do not have an ID, I have a voter declaration form. This blue sheet here That's our ballot. So once everybody's nominated, this is where you will be writing president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and the 4 directors. And this one will go in that ballot. Is there any questions? I have the voters list. So if you didn't bring your Metis card and brought your ID, I still have your name on the list. And if you say you have a Metis card, like I had one already, didn't get a Metis card yet, I was in the process, that's when you fill out the voter declaration and say, yes, you've applied for your Metis card. Any other questions? Okay, so for the first one, a local nomination for president of MNS, you can nominate anybody. Nick will write it down. Oh, you need a motion to open first. So can I have somebody to motion to open? Rosaire, seconder. Everybody agree with it? All good? Okay, nominations are open for president.
I nominate Brian Hanson.
Rocky nominates Ryan Hansen. Any other nominations? Rosaire? Rosaire nominates Mervyn Horn. Wendy Eldridge? Wendy Eldridge nominates Joe Dial. Any more nominations? Going once? Going twice? Motion deceased. Deceased. Same thing, it's fun. Deceased. Not deceased, deceased. Did you have something to say, Fred? Okay. Seconder, deceased. All in favor? No. Ryan, do you